the natural history shows many different forms of behavior that cats, dogs, horses, parrots, and other domestic animals show in response to their owners' intentions. I also have many other unexplained categories of behavior, like animals responding before earthquakes and tsunamis and so forth. But now I'm just going to talk about telepathy. Many cat owners have noticed, for instance, that their cats pick up their intention to take them to the vet. They disappear. And this happens so often that some people desperately try not to give the cat any clues. They don't let it see the carrying basket. They say to themselves, I mustn't think about the vet. I mustn't think about the vet. They still disappear. Some people, in desperation, try ringing the vet from work so the cat can't overhear the conversation. And then they swing by after work to pick up the cat and take it to the vet, and it's not there. We heard so many of these stories that I organised a survey of all 65 veterinary clinics in the North London Yellow Pages, and we asked them if they ever had a problem with people missing appointments with their cat. 64 out of 65 said, yes, it happens all the time. The remaining ones said it happened so often they'd given up the appointment system for cats. People just have to arrive with their animals. The phenomenon that's in fact easiest to study is a very common one: dogs and cats that know when their owners are coming home. Many people have dogs or cats that go and wait by a door or window when a member of the family is on the way home. And if this happens at a routine time, no one thinks it's very odd. It could just be a biological clock. If it happens only a minute or two before, it could be hearing footsteps in the street, the crunch of car wheels on the gravel, that kind of thing. But in many households, it happens 10 minutes, half an hour even in advance. And what's more, it happens when people come home at non-routine times. When I was first launching appeals for this, I ran an appeal in my hometown local newspaper, Newark, Nottinghamshire. And I was talking to the editor of the Newark Advertiser about this, and he said, I think this is completely credible. He said, I notice this all the time. He said, I leave the office at unpredictable hours. He said, but my wife always knows when I've left because the dog goes and starts waiting at the door. And he said, sometimes, he said, it's embarrassing for me because he said, sometimes I decide on the way home to go and visit someone or stop off for a drink. And when I get home, my wife says, where have you been, Roger? You left the office 2 hours ago. So we found many cases where this happens. We did random household surveys to find out how frequent. It turns out that about 50% of dogs do it, about 30% of cats. Not necessarily because cats are less sensitive. I think just some of them are less interested. Anyway, I've done hundreds of videotaped experiments on this phenomenon. We videotape the place the dog waits the whole time the person's out. We have them go out at least 5 miles away. We have them come home at randomly chosen times that they don't know in advance. The people at home don't know when they're coming. Sometimes there is no one at home. The videotapes, which are time-coded, are analysed independently by independent observers to find out whenever the dog goes to the window. What they show is over and over and over again, dogs go and start waiting when their owners form the intention to come home before they've even got into the car. These experiments have been replicated with different dogs. The results are published in scientific journals. You can find the full texts on my website. And this line of research is now being revived. There's an American website organising something called open source science, particularly in America, where we're launching an appeal for people with pets that do this to take part in a new wave of experiments. But this is a relatively common phenomenon, and I'd be interested to know actually how many people here have or have had dogs or cats that know when they're coming home. Well, that's an amazing number actually, higher than a normal proportion. So we're not talking about obscure phenomena here. We're talking about something that's really quite common in many households. I do have a video here This shows one of these experiments. It was filmed with a British dog, but it was filmed by Austrian television, which is why the soundtrack's in German. But don't worry, it was an English-speaking dog. So this is the dog, JT. His owner's called Pam. And this is a classic experiment on this phenomenon.
Wir wollen es jetzt genau wissen und machen die Probe aufs Exempel. Ein Experiment mit 2 Kameras.
So doing an experiment with 2 cameras, one to film the dog at home in her parents' flat,
Wenn Pam das Haus verlässt.
the other to film Pam.
Um vergleichen zu können, was Pam und JT im selben Moment tun, werden die Timecodes der beiden Kameras auf dieselbe Uhrzeit gestellt.
So synchronizing the cameras.
Der zweite Kameramann begleitet Pam und unsere Redakteurin. Es ist 11 Uhr Vormittag. Das Experiment beginnt. Weder die Eltern zu Hause noch Pam wissen, wann wir zurückkommen werden. Wird JT auch unter diesen Bedingungen reagieren und Pam am Fenster erwarten. Wir begleiten Pam in das nahegelegene Städtchen Ramsbottom. Nur wir selbst der Kameramann, der mit JT zu Hause geblieben ist, weiß nicht, wann er zurückkommen wird.
So he's emphasizing that neither Pam nor the cameraman nor her parents know when she's going home.
Es ist kurz vor 13 Uhr. Die Hälfte der Zeit für das Experiment ist bereits abgelaufen. Das wissen allerdings nur wir. Denn, wie schon gesagt, den Zeitpunkt der Rückkehr halten wir nach wie vor geheim. Weder Pam noch ihre Eltern zu Hause wissen, wann wir zurückkehren werden. Ob der Versuch gelingen wird, ist nach wie vor offen. Niemand kann voraussagen, ob JT unter Testbedingungen wie immer reagieren wird oder ob Kamera und Scheinwerfer ihn irritieren. Nun wird es ernst. Es ist 10 vor 3. Unsere Redakteurin gibt das Zeichen für den sofortigen Aufbruch.
This is the randomly chosen time. They're telling Pam to go home now.
14:50 Minuten.
She's been out for about nearly 4 hours.
Okay, let's go.
Um 14 Uhr, 50 Minuten und 33 Sekunden. 11 Sekunden nach unserem kleinen Allerdings wissen wir das zu diesem Zeitpunkt noch nicht. Um es für den Hund noch schwieriger zu machen, haben wir uns schon vorher entschieden, mit einem Taxi zurückzufahren, damit JT das Motorengeräusch von Pams Auto nicht erkennen kann. JT rührt sich zu Hause nicht mehr vom Fenster weg, während Pam im Taxi auf dem Weg zu ihm ist. Dabei spielt es keine Rolle, ob Pam an ihn denkt oder nicht. Genauso wie in den Experimenten, die sie für Rupert Sheldrake mit ihm gemacht hat, lässt sich JT auch diesmal nicht irritieren. Erwartungsvoll sitzt er am Fenster, als das Taxi vorfährt.
So he spent all 15 minutes of a homeward journey waiting by the window.
Zugegeben, uns selbst hat das Ergebnis verblüfft. Erklärungen können wir Ihnen dafür keine anbieten. Wir erheben allerdings auch nicht den Anspruch eines wissenschaftlichen Experiments. Wir können Ihnen nur zeigen, was wir mit eigenen Augen gesehen haben. Wenn Sie selbst ähnliche Erlebnisse mit Ihrem Haustier haben, bitte schreiben Sie uns. Wir leiten Ihre Briefe an Rupert Sheldrake weiter und Sie werden somit Teilnehmer an den Experimenten auf der Suche nach dem 6. Sinn.